order. Is Mark Kulos. There is presently a quorum, here we got, the 10. Who we missing? We're missing one. Sheila, all right, she's in the right. She's at the, convention in Chicago, so whether she comes in or not online, I don't know. That's okay. So we have 10 people here. We need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, July 16th, 2024. Can we get a motion, please?
So moved as amended.
By Bill Hall. Second by Peter Gosper. Peter, did you submit something?
Just one deletion.
Just one deletion.
Got it here.
All right.
I have additional corrections.
All right. What do you got?
Where it's for ex officio members, it says assistant superintendent Susan Lasorda, it should be acting superintendent.
Okay.
And then there was a point there where Mike Fienza had said that he met with the board there about the various updates to the school plans with the school administration, not directly with the board again.
I think that's for. You're doing the meeting for the 16th.
Yeah. The 16th of July.
I think the comment you had is for the 15th last.
All right.
Last week.
No, we
Oh,
can.
the last week we spent.
Yeah. So.
Oh, you're talking.
Copy and paste that to the next.
Yeah. Did you send those out?
I sent them.
No. Talking
Yeah.
the special meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll add those. We'll add those too. So we'll do those separately though. All right. So the minutes for July 16th we're talking about right now. Anything else? Hearing none, we'll start with Joe DeLucia online.
Yes.
Let's see, Stacy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
What's that? Miss Mark down there?
Yes.
Greg. Yeah. Myself.
Cindy.
Yes.
Cindy.
Cindy. Actually, you gotta look down here.
Yes.
Cindy. Yes. All right, good. All right, that's 10-0. Now on the special meeting, what was the date? The 15th?
August 15th.
August 15th. A motion to accept with correction.
It's not on the agenda, you gotta.
Oh, no, okay, that's true, well, it's
I'll
a
make a
regular
motion
meeting.
that we add approval of the minutes for the August 15th, 2024 special meeting to the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're not gonna do the roll call on that one. The,
I'll take the point.
all right, no, it's not. I just actually had this stuff, I just
Yeah.
put the other. But you good stuff. So anyway, any additions, corrections, deletions to those?
Kathy, can you just go through the few resolutions?
One was the one morning, was a base meeting with the board plan. And here wanted me to add in. After discussing,
Could you speak up a little bit?
Peter wanted me to add in the second paragraph on the second page. After, if it was felt they were necessary, that local safety rules asked how much the committee had spent on demographic studies and my advance responded that they did not have those figures at that time.
Stacy, that was your question.
I thought I gave you now.
Well, there was one amount that you
You
did
did,
do
you said that you believe the committee had spent.
on one of
Oh.
them, 7,500.
Yeah,
$7,500.
yeah.
She didn't know it's full.
Oh, yeah, and then I can give you that now.
All right, then, and there was, from the draft, I know I made a correction, but I don't think they saw that, right? So, There's two others.
Mark me too.
Yep. So he asked me to add in the third page at the top, add the word consequential before taking change to the design of the building. And after the end of that sentence, add in here, God, your respect, express skepticism on being able to achieve a 5,000 square foot reduction and ask what change will be required. They answer responded that that level of detail would not be available until the design phase. And then to the end of that paragraph, right before discussion to what Mike Vans stated that was not practical, given the advanced state of the
So Michael, basically what I had, Michael, was I had to get confidential that the changes you can make are not.
Okay, okay, all right, good. That's perfect.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah. A couple of minutes.
Mark?
Yeah, well, I sent those to Kathy, also the, about the, assistant superintendent acting, and then in paragraph, let's see.
We've met many times, and said the Board of Ed, it should be the administration,
Right,
not the Board of Ed.
Right,
correct,
correct. That would be correct. That would be correct.
so that's somewhere in the big paragraph.
All right. You got that?
Yes.
You're all set with that? All right. That would be correct. Anything else? Anyone have any other changes? Thank you, everybody, for the changes, by the way. That's good. We'll go all in favor. Joe?
Yes.
Let's see, Stacy?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes,
Cindy?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Peter? Yes. Greg? Yes. Me? Yes. Unanimous. 10-0. All right. I don't see anybody here for public comment. Unless there's somebody online. I don't think so. So,
Mark, this is Rob Harris.
yep,
Is this time to ask a question?
sure. You can go ahead.
It's actually a question for Mike, I believe. We're just looking at the timeline and we're, just wondering with everything that's going on, is the ENS measures, is that timeline still the same or has anything changed? That's the detention basin on site at Greenville?
It hasn't changed at this point. I mean, we'll be developing site logistics over the next, couple months, and we'll get that pinpointed by Downs when that work's gonna happen. And then there's probably some further discussion with you guys as to, I know you guys are gonna cut it at both ends and when that's gonna happen and all that, we'll have to fit into the schedule. So we'll be in contact with you on that stuff. Once the schedule is more developed and the logistics of it.
All right, so right now we're still looking at Q1.
I would say that's probably accurate given where we are now.
Okay,
And
right, thank
if it's to accelerate at all, you'll know, and we'll have to work through that, but I don't foresee it being a major issue with the timeline. With one.
thank you.
Think there's any other public comment or comment? So we'll move on to CSG.
Okay,
Vote on the peer review.
yeah, so that'll come in a little later. Weekly design review meetings have been ongoing with district administration to approve the spaces within the building. This is just the classroom spaces, administration offices and spaces. Just getting sign offs from administration that the spaces are how they want them. One item, we had talked about the 5,000 square feet at the August 15th meeting. The removal of an art room from both Stanton and Greenville is being contemplated right now. And we have some approximate space reductions from the building by that second art room. It was determined by administration through some tours that we went on that the second art room wouldn't be necessary. So we're looking at removing that second art room from the space. We visited a school, I believe it was Griswold, maybe, huge elementary school. Like over 700 kids and, you know, we looked at logistics as to how they utilize their building and, you know, Susan and her team had met and, you know, based on the tour that we had there and felt that the second art room could be removed. So, you know, I relayed that to the design team at the time, you know, it didn't look like it was gonna be easy to pull out, but, you know, they were able to make the reductions. So those reductions are shown on the plans and, you know, I'm just bringing you guys up to speed with that. The first state payment request was approved and paid by the state. The second payment request has been finalized and submitted in Core CT. At this time, the payment application has not been approved by the state, and a copy of that payment application is attached at the end of the packet. Construction document phase commenced. Design team will continue developing those drawings. An attention point, the program budget has been revised and was approved by this committee at the 8/15 special building committee meeting. Proposed amendments to ordinance 1820 were rescinded last night at the council meeting. Those were the two ordinances that were brought forward to the council. And then a project budget is attached on the next page. You'll notice that the project budget has been updated based on the design development figures. So it reflects the most current estimate from Downs Construction. And at this point, as of the invoices that were approved last month, the total expenditure against the project is $1,581,147.28. Basically the same update for Greenville. Weekly meetings have been ongoing to approve the spaces in the building. The removal of the art room from the Greenville building is 980 gross square feet. Same thing with the state payment request. Request 1 has been approved and paid by the state. Payment request 2 has been finalized and submitted in Core CT. A copy of the payment request is attached at the end of the packet. And again, same thing with the ordinances regarding the overall program budget.
I don't know if now it's Norwich.
Yeah.
Could you just speak up a little bit? Yeah.
I'm just wondering if now is an all right time to ask a question regarding design.
Oh.
I've had several people mention to me, and having been mom,
Yeah.
well, still am, I can understand it totally. A nursing room doesn't have to be anything big, where mothers can also pump, dry milk, but also where they can nurse, other than having to sit in the bath or something. And it's, you know, especially nowadays, you know, we have a lot of young mothers.
Mhm.
And that has come up in discussions.
Jim and Greg would probably better.
So we do have mothers' rooms, they're associated with the staff and faculty areas. There's also dedicated toilet core in that same area. But it is part of the program statement that we've been responding.
Positive answer.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good job.
So with regards to the Greenville budget, it's also been updated to the most recent design development estimate from Downs. $78,909,975, where we sit right now. You're all right. I heard someone may have been choking, or I don't know what that was, but yeah, and to date, we've expended $1,549,092.61. Moving on to the Moriarty project. The RFP for architecture services was issued on 7/24. A non-mandatory walkthrough was held for bidders on 7/31. Well attended. 2 pages of sign-ins on that. The RFI deadline for the project was 8/13. The purchasing department received 20 questions that were answered and provided to bidders as part of addendum 1. The demographic. Some of them were, yeah, but the demographic peer review was completed by MP Planning Group. The peer review was unable to lower the student enrollment for the elementary school population at this time. Additional square footage outside of the space standard was removed from the building and the budget. That was part of what was able to get the figures to come down to meet the original appropriation. And that was done in coordination with district administration as far as, the feeling that we could remove that 5,000 square feet and still stay within the program statement. Right off the top, one of the items that was in the program statement was the additional art room in both schools. So that's a relatively large savings on both these buildings, and the remaining 4,000 and change that's left shouldn't be that difficult to achieve when we get into these projects.
Says you.
Well,
All right.
the spaces are, it shouldn't be that big of a challenge.
No.
The current budget for this project is currently at $74,065,606. One item that everyone should keep in mind is that, the original educational specifications for this project were at a larger amount. So those educational specifications are going to need to be updated at some point to reflect the new size that we're going through before we start doing state reviews and whatnot. And we also may need to tweak the original Greenville and Stanton educational specifications to show the removal of that art room. When we go to the design review meetings, the state will be looking at that, and we don't want to be showing something that won't actually be built in the program statement because they'll be looking for it. Architect RFP responses are due on August 30th. Upon receiving the responses, the building committee will have from 9/2 to 9/13 to review the proposals, score the proposals, and establish a short list. At this time, the interviews could be completed the week of 9/16. That aligns with our 9/17 building committee meeting if we wanted to schedule the architect interviews for that day. However, the owner's rep RFP for Uncas is also due the same day. So, the scoring and scheduling of interviews for that proposal response could also happen during that same week. So I just put it on there as food for thought so everyone would know the timeline as to where we were and when we would be receiving those responses. Additionally, some attention points to this: a proposal for a new demographic report is included at the end of the packet for consideration. If the proposal is approved and the new enrollment report or enrollment data supports a lower enrollment, the building size would be able to be adjusted accordingly. Again, this ties back to how the architecture RFP was written. Rather than getting fixed fee proposals from the architects that will be submitting on that, we did it as a percentage basis, which will allow us the flexibility to adjust the budget and not pay for design effort that is unneeded because we're designing a smaller building than what was contemplated in the original RFP. The demographic peer review is included at the back of the packet, and Mike Zuba from MP Planning Group is on the call if anyone had any questions regarding that peer review. I don't know if there may not be enough time for everyone to have reviewed it, but in the event that anyone had any questions regarding how it was done, or Mike graciously accepted the invitation to join us to speak to you guys if you have any questions. I just as a note for everyone, the sole purpose of the demographic report isn't to change the size of the Moriarty and Uncas school. It will be necessary as far as when we do the grant applications for teachers in Huntington, more so teachers than Huntington, but the state will require more current enrollment figures when we submit that grant application next year. So whether or not it's MP Planning Group that does it, or if it's another firm, it still needs to be done in order to have our grant applications considered for teachers. So it felt like a good time to do it because we potentially would get some enrollment relief at Uncas and Moriarty potentially, and then, you know, it would provide basically, you know, the new data that we need to support a grant application for the teachers middle school.
Well, I mean, part of the issue too is obviously if we, I mentioned this before at the meeting the other day, was that did we get to that? You know, if we get better numbers for Uncas and Moriarty, you know, we'll be in better shape there. Obviously, I think we'll have an opportunity to maybe maintain the building size where it is now and that space waiver, which was the original planning with the other two schools. And maintain some additional space to make programmatic options a little more livable. So we'll see. We'll do what we have to do in order to move forward, but we certainly want those opportunities to be able to grow and stuff if we can. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, and then
All right, there you go.
we can switch over to Uncas.
Oh, sorry.
Basically, the exact same update. Current project budget for Uncas is currently at $76,468,026. Same information as far as everything else. Does anyone have any questions for Mike? Just because I know he has an additional meeting that he is looking to attend a little later, so I just, you know. Mike,
Do we want to go out of order and address the item 7 on the agenda?
the proposal for
Yeah.
for the demographic, we
Do
can't.
we need Mike?
I mean, if anyone has any questions regarding the proposal it came from Mike's firm, so.
Why don't we do that? I'm gonna adjust the order here and do you have anything else as far as your report though?
I just have to go through the teacher's update, but I can do that after we review. the
Okay.
proposal.
All right, so obviously, like I mentioned, I think I said in my initial, one of my emails that we're going to be looking to do a new enrollment proposal. Mike's already alluded to that tonight. So a new enrollment projection proposal. So that's item number 7 on our agenda. So we're going to take that up now, just in case there's any questions from Mike. And he's here right now. We'll let him get out of here. So go ahead. Mike, did you want to present that or Mike?
So it's basically,
Somebody, one Mike.
it's basically a demographic report for the entire district enrollment. So we'll basically get everything. The addition that we would get is there'll be a couple more years of enrollment data. You know, just to confirm that we're not building these schools too big or too small. You know, which will be helpful to look at. You know, I know there's been some concerns in the community regarding the sizes and how the estimates were arrived at. You know, so, you know, I think getting this information will be valuable to the city just to really confirm everything, you know, that's been done. The middle school enrollment was confirmed by the demographic peer review. They illustrated a couple items within the peer review for the elementary enrollment. And you know, those items would be addressed within the proposal. The one thing everyone should know is that it's about 2 months worth of work from the approval of the proposal. However, the final official October 1st, 2024 enrollment data is necessary to complete the report. So while it's 2 months to approve now, you know, we would still need to wait for, you know, the October 1st numbers to come in. So,
yeah, and Mike, do you want me to touch on that for the timeline? I think, because I know you have a sense of urgency with this.
well,
And could you-
No, I think we're, go ahead.
the sense of urgency isn't as urgent, still
Okay.
urgent, but the sense of urgency was really that if we needed additional funds regarding the program budget, you know, we needed to know as soon as possible, but, you know, thankfully, the peer review confirmed the middle school enrollment for us. That was one of the larger factors that we were looking at, which amounted to the most of the savings for us. And then, you know, the other two projects that were reduced in size slightly provided a little bit more budget relief, but the biggest savings came from the middle school enrollment.
Yeah, I think from a schedule wise too, we can start work on it. And typically when we get a good feel from the administration of when the enrollment settles,
Yeah.
you know, obviously the first couple of weeks you have some fluctuations, but it typically settles a few weeks before that October 1st. We can have a good feel for what those numbers are looking like, especially since it's district wide, and then just use the October 1st to finalize it because that's what the state requires. I think with any projection done prior to the legislative change for the kindergarten start date, they're going to be a little bit higher because what we're seeing for the 24-25 kindergarten year is you're going to have a cohort about 25% smaller in kindergarten than you would typically have. And that's just a one-time smaller cohort due to the change. But that in context of your elementary building projects is going to have a cohort then that's smaller than the others and moves through the system, you know, within that 6-year window, that'll have some enrollment relief and reduction in enrollment overall just because of the legislative change.
That'll only last for the 6 years though.
It does only last for 6 years, but also what it'll do, and one thing I noticed from the last demographic report, when I compared the 2023 to the projected, it was tracking, the projections were tracking about 30 or 33 students above. I think with the most recent birth data as well, we'll likely project some smaller kindergarten cohorts that'll be more accurately reflected when it pans out versus what was projected earlier, just based on methodology that we do.
Hey, Mike, you have one correction on your peer review. Top of page 4, first paragraph. Last line says the value over 1.0 indicates in migration, and the value over 1.0 indicates out migration.
Oh, supposed to be below, Greg, but thank you for pointing that out. I'll be sure to correct it.
I don't know why that stood out when I was just looking over. There it is.
Hey, you did your reading, you did your homework.
Yeah,
You get a, you get a star.
All right,
And the total amount for the proposal in front of you is $9,675.
all right. Do we get a motion to authorize that?
Can I ask,
Oh, good.
I'd like to ask one question. We've got pre-K programs in all of our elementary schools, but you have not counted in any of these numbers
That
as
is,
pre-K.
well, if you look at the peer review, they talk about how they determine the pre-K numbers. And that situation is really kind of part of the, how do I explain this? If the district administration is going to determine basically what those numbers are going to be.
That's why it looks.
Yeah, I can
Go
just
ahead.
clarify, in Connecticut, where we don't see really universal pre-K, it becomes an effect of the plan, the program, and the number of seats offered. In other states where they have universal pre-K, we typically very similar to our K projection with a little reduction for private providers, and it gets lagged. But here in Connecticut, where it becomes more of a function of the program and the space allotted for it, it's really not a demographically driven projection or demographically driven enrollment number, I guess would be a good way to put it.
So one thing to make note of regarding the total pre-K enrollment that was analyzed and looked at by district administration is that I believe they have a pre-K grant that the city receives for the pre-K program, and it supports 332 students. So all of the initial and updated data reflected a number of 347, which would be more than the granted support. So the 347 number was still used when we did all of the enrollment reports. So to try and put everyone's mind at ease a little bit with regards to potentially the schools being built and small, there was some fudge factor to it, if you will. Not a ton, but
Okay. Stacy, you got a question?
Yeah.
The meeting at the end of the table there?
Good question, the number. Possibly it's still too low.
For what?
For the pre.
Well, I mean, if the grant only supports 332, if you look at the tables. On page 2. Or. Yeah, if you look at the totals on page 2, right, the updated report, April 2023. Is the numbers that were actually used for all of the grant applications, so that reflects the 347. We didn't use the 267, the 307, because the former administration was looking at a ramp up for the pre-K program to get bigger over years before it reached maximum capacity, which also kind of went in line with the way that the construction program was going to operate. So all of the grant applications reflect the 347 figure in the enrollments as well as the budgets.
Thank you.
But the actual number will be determined, I think will be determined by the administration based on.
Well, right.
Space.
Yeah, space and maybe if the grant supports it, you know, I don't know exactly how that works out. Susan is on the call. I don't know if that.
Susan, if you could you chime in on that? I mean, how will we determine determine the size of the program?
So we have school readiness is the slots are 332. So we can't go over that. There is a square footage that we've been talking with. So we know that Corey Beckwith has been working with us for the pre-K. So we have been working with the architects to make sure that the classrooms are set for exactly 332. It sounds like we can go a little over that, but I don't think that the school readiness grant will ever go over 332.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just so you guys know, there's 332 slots in the grant. So we get paid based on those slots.
Is the grant good for every year, or do you have to apply for it each year?
It's free every year. It's 332. It has not changed. The only thing that has changed is during the pandemic, they gave us the slots up front. That's no longer the case. So it's we can't get reimbursed until we fill those slots.
In other words, if you only had 250 people apply for the program, then that's all funding. Yeah.
That's correct.
And Susan, what was the latest figure for 3K? What was our enrollment as of last year?
Give me a minute to look into that, Mark. I do know that whatever happened this past year is going to be very different to start the new year. As you know, when Bishop closed down, it caused a lot of chaos, and moving into the new programs, we had a waiting list because we had to hire as we went. So I'll give you that number, but I don't think that's going to affect moving forward, but give me a minute.
Okay.
Susan, are you still there?
Yes, she's looking.
Go ahead.
It's Christine. Just wondering, where are we at right now for kids registered?
That's what I just asked.
Oh,
Yeah, give me a second. I'll get that information for you.
Yeah.
9,675.
Well, I
make a motion that we approve funding for the demographic study.
Update.
got a motion on the table that to approve the funding for the demographic study.
Make that motion.
Well, the second, I just need a
Oh,
second.
second.
The motion by Greg Carabon. Carabin, yeah. Carabin, too. Second by Stacy. Any discussion on that piece? We can have questions about the actual enrollment all we want, but as far as the
Authorizing.
the authorizing the study which we need, any discussion regarding that? Hearing none, we will go. Joe DeLucia.
Yes.
Let's see, Stacy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Greg, yes. Myself, yes. 10-0, one absent. Motion is approved. Mike, if you gotta get out, you can get out.
I look forward to working with you guys. I'll be in touch.
Same, take
Thank
care.
you.
Okay, so that takes us to the teachers' middle school. So, the demographic peer review, completed by MD Planning Group confirmed the district middle school enrollment in coordination with the BOE administration team. The enrollment, at Kelly Middle School will increase to 650. This will set the enrollment for teachers' middle school at 425 students, or a 71,400 square foot building. Estimates have been updated to reflect the new school option estimated at $72,547,456 and a renovate as new project at $69,277,977. An evaluation of reimbursement rates for a new school and renovate as new project have been completed or included within the packet. So if everyone flips past all of the peer review and enrollment data, I know that a decision isn't to be made right now in front of everyone, but what I wanted everyone to see was how the reimbursement figures play given the two options. And again, it's the last page of the packet. Basically, the enrollment for both schools is 425 students. And if you look at the current estimates, there's a space standard reduction for doing the renovate as new school, because currently that building is 88,000 square feet from the DRA master plan. A renovate as new project would receive the increased town or city reimbursement rate. So rather than the standard 67.14% that the city receives, it would be elevated to 77.14 because it's a renovation project. And the reason that the state does that is to incentivize renovating a building versus knocking them down and building new. And unfortunately, given the scale of the work that would need to be done there, when you do a renovate as new project, it isn't as simple as taking an 88,000 square foot building, lopping off, in this case, 18,000 square feet, and calling it a day. I mean, it's not a straight line example like that, because there's code improvements that would be needed. There's fixed features of the building that can't be adjusted. Stairwells, corridor widths, classroom sizes in some cases that can't be reconfigured. So when you renovate a building as new, basically the building is renovated as it is, the outside, the square footage of the outside walls. So the reason that the building size is elevated slightly for the estimate for the new school, for the renovate as new estimate at 89,949, when we know that it's 88,000 square feet currently. We know that the stairwells aren't code compliant, and there's other amenities like getting an elevator to be able to access. I don't know how familiar everyone is with that building, but the gymnasium is in basically the basement of the building with no access to get down there. The auditorium currently has a wall built on the stage and is being used as a classroom, and there's no ADA lift to get students up to the platform or the stage in that building. And I'm sure as it gets analyzed for a renovation project, other ADA compliance issues will be discovered. But then in comparison, you know, so the space standard reduction based on the 425 student enrollment is basically you get 79% of the 77.14. So when the final reimbursement rate for a renovated as new project with that much of a space standard reduction actually comes out lower than the new school option. So then when you see the column that says state share and city share, the state share is the reimbursement that would be anticipated based on the original project budget with all of the reimbursement percentages and the reductions taken into account. And again, all of this is without a space standard waiver. If legislatively the project's approved at 80, you know, everything changes. But you know, you can see the amount that the state would be paying for these two different projects and the amount the city would be paying for these two different projects. And given the factors that would come into play for a renovated as new project at that school, logistically, it's a much more challenging project than if a new school was built, given the property, given the circulation of that building and the inadequacy of the circulation. You would likely need temporary classrooms in order to support it. But, you know, again, this is a down the road discussion, but since we were going to be talking about the estimates anyway, I wanted to provide this to everyone as a precursor to when that decision goes about.
The general feeling has been, you know, build is new. So I mean, I think that's been the consensus. So unless I'm missing the vote, Mark Rulos.
Yeah, so even though the renovate as new final figure is lower than the build a new school figure, it's gonna be higher on the city share.
Right.
So we're gonna save $3 million on the city side if we build as new as opposed to renovate.
That's what this is.
Right, but that would be a right
Just because of
size,
the change, the
ADA
difference in
compliant,
Right size,
fully
compliant,
modernized
brand new building,
building.
all the way from the ground up versus, you know, and I've done both projects. I'm not trying to bash on a renovated school because when you renovate it as new, it basically is a new building at the end.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you
it
gotta put
depends
new
on
windows,
the-
you gotta put central air, you gotta update the wiring.
And there's a variety of construction logistics that can be encountered after the project starts that are impossible to document through the design phase that then, you know, usually amount to change orders, whereas if you go with a new building, the extra costs are usually limited because the building is designed and it's built from the ground up.
I mean, we certainly ran into some of this stuff with Kelly. I mean, Kelly was pretty well thought out. Kelly is built in wings. So we were able to shut one wing down. We built the new wing first so we could move the students around. And we basically shut one wing down, whatever, and we did the common stuff, the gymnasium and all that stuff during the summer. But that's how we handle those issues. Teachers' configuration is not really kind of like that.
The academic wings one side.
Yeah,
There's unlike Kelly where
yeah.
different
I
compass directions.
apologize. Teachers is less, and it's new, why are we spending time?
Yeah, well, that's it. There you go. All right.
And today's not the day for it either.
Right, right.
It's
Let's
just-
just,
it's
Just information.
all right, let's move on. Is
Uh,
that it?
And that concludes the report from us.
Okay, good. So. We do the.
Are you looking for me, Mark?
But you can, do you have your numbers?
So
Go
we
ahead.
finished with 255 last year. We don't want to go below the 332 for our grant. Right now, we have 215 registered, and it's still August.
So we expect to get at least 300 right now, before the end of the school year. But we don't want to ever go below the 332 threshold for the school readiness grant.
Thank you, Susan.
All right. Online, you see the DRA's piece? Joe, do you see that?
Yes, I do. Yes,
All
I
right.
do. I see it now.
All right.
Yes, I do. Yep, thank you.
You're up.
Very good. Just as report from the architectural team, as Mike indicated, we've been working closely with administration, getting the physical space sign-offs, space by space, so that we have an understanding that what we have is understood. On the heels of that, we'll be entering into similar discussions, again, taking it first through the working group and administration to touch on FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment to fit within those spaces. So that'll be something near on the horizon. We do know as we look forward to the OGA meeting, we have a lot of legwork ahead of us. None of this is up there, folks. Sorry that went ahead accidentally, but we all the checklists have to be taken and moved forward. We have one shot with them now in terms of the final PCT. So that will be the review that we'll engage on with OGA. Our construction documentation has commenced, as Mike indicated. We have been active in that. The two discussion items this evening, cost management and interior design documentation. This was coming out of our DD. This was shared by Downs. This identified we had a targeted approximately $7 million worth of targeted savings. We basically got within 5,000 of that number between the two schools. There were a couple items that still were held outside of this. We said we had to come back and revisit for additional cost savings. So if you go to the next slide, we had 4 items. The first was removal of stratification fans in the gymnasium. We all collectively talked about it. We all said it was a great thing to do. Unfortunately, it still remained on the drawings and was priced. We're taking them out of the seat. The next item below that, and there they are coming out. That's the same sketch that I think Greg forwarded to our consultants. Get these out of there. Storefront in lieu of window systems. So if you go to the next slide, back in March, the building committee voted to move and take all of the operable windows out of the building. So now we have fixed window systems in the building. With that realization, there is another value engineering potential, and that's to move from window system to storefront. We've had success with this in other projects, and it's something that we're recommending. And we'll work through with the cost estimators to help you understand potential savings. Yes, ma'am.
What is it? Storefronts.
So it's simply window systems are typically manufactured product. They arrive from a factory as a delivered unit and they're popped in place as a unit. Storefront can be stick assembled, meaning it might be done at the site, or it might be pre-manufactured to a certain level in a controlled environment and brought to the site. Probably the folks from Downs can speak more to it, but just pure potential cost savings, it is another area that we can go to consider.
It's a very,
on site.
it's assembled on site. It's a very similar product. I mean, quality and all this is just as good. It's just it's an easier way and more you don't have any problems ordering the pizza and not fitting. You can go. Availability between the two, is one more available than the other. Storefront tends to be. Because they produce all the frame material. You know, one straight long length, you can cut it to size, so you're not having.
So an example, this jam member, it's part of a long stick.
Right.
They cut it in the field and make the assemblage in the field.
So overall, they're effective.
Their performance from an R value rating is the same as what we can get. That's something that we also had to confirm. Yes, sir.
So if you're saying a quarter inch out of whack as far as the frame goes, you can easily put the storefront in as opposed to a fixed window.
Well, Downs Construction will not put us that far on the whack dimension. We do have construction tolerances, but I don't know that we want to know about that kind of, no, you're absolutely right.
All right, so it's easier to cover up mistakes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay.
Well, yeah, makes sense.
There wouldn't be mistakes.
Let's go to the.
The storefront system, they'd be designed right to the opening.
Just hope it's correct. A little diagonal. We go to the next slide. So another, and this was one that we identified in our DD estimate as something that we would consider. It's the elimination of exterior sunshades. And when I say sun, they're not your window control on the inside. This is exterior of the building, creating shading on the south face of the building. So if we go to the next slide, at each of these heads, right in this position, on south-facing walls on both projects, we had cantilevered sunshades to create shading across the window. Our note here, and this again was from the March document from the building committee meeting. We said pending high performance building standard component testing. So we had them in, it's a good idea, but it also helps us get a high performance building standard point and it gets us to our level, and that helps with our reimbursement from the state. We were able to achieve the high performance building standards point with the specified system. We've confirmed this with our envelope specialists. So we, after consideration and engineering review of it, we know we can remove these, and that's a recommendation that we're bringing. Yes, ma'am.
Because the glazing will
Correct.
take care of that.
The glazing on our south-facing windows, it'll look the same as all the other glazing. It has different characteristics instead of the shading and the R value coefficients. Yes, sir.
Removing that, how does that affect the HVAC cost for running it?
So that's the point. It was there considering that we had to shade further to be able to achieve what's needed with the energy cost on the rooftop units. With the actual glazing material that's being applied, that's not necessary. It doesn't hurt us, and it saves us about, well, these guys will talk numbers, but order of magnitude about $100 grand. It's a good number. Next slide.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go back.
I mentioned there's still the internal shades.
Oh, absolutely. We'll have controls on your windows. You'll not have to worry about, making a student next to the.
That I'm not worried about, it's more of the projector, but being able to be seen on it, depending on the lighting, so.
So it's more like a German type window with a shade built into the.
No, these are interior mounted. They are perforated, so you can still see out, but they shade significantly.
Same as Kelly right now.
Yes.
You're familiar with Kelly.
Yeah.
Yes, about 3% visual through. And the last one that we had, and this is all under our kind of continued cost management, was building footprint reduction. If you go to the next slide, that was one of the cost saving measures. We reported out where we were at the time for both schools. We also, in conversation with CSG, understood that
one of the art rooms was considered not needed going forward. If we could get it out of this program, it was asked if we could try. You know, I have a team. When we're in schematic design, there's about 6 or 7 of us working at right now. In construction documents, there's probably upwards of 50 to 60. And I don't know, Greg, am I underestimating that? But it's that kind of order of magnitude. There's a lot of people that really want to take a swing at me if I say certain things. And this is one of them, but
Don't give them my number.
I give them Bonnie's number. She's vicious. Bonnie is our project manager in-house. She's very capable.
That's the word for it.
Yes. But, and I'm sorry, this is very small for you guys, but this is the Stanton footprint. On this side, we have lower floor, upper floor of current. And over here, we have lower floor and upper floor. And what's shown here that you can't see, and I could just, you know, there's a space here that currently, that's a multidisciplinary space, but it's the same size as the art room, which sits in this zone. So we're able to take it from there, move it there, and then squeeze the building inward. At Stanton, it saves us about order of magnitude 700 square feet ballpark. But that savings is significant. Again, just using the numbers that were in the DD estimate, just construction costs, it's over $500,000. So it's a good cost savings. At Greenville, slightly higher, it's about 880 square feet of space. There's a little more of a shell game going on in terms of where the spaces have to move, but it ends up with a very clean kind of final iteration. So this is the zone at the second floor. It gets moved in about 880 square feet savings. And again, construction cost dollars only, about $750,000. So those two taken together are significant. And then obviously you add on your soft costs over the top of that. So that kind of concludes kind of our initial kind of take of moving. And this one is cumbersome because like we said, we have to talk to a lot of people about helping us adjust. Structural engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. Everybody's involved at this point, but everybody's willing to cooperate and move it with us. Thanks to Greg and Bonnie.
The committee have faith in you. You go.
Jim, can I just talk a little bit off of that? I know that Mike spoke about us visiting Griswold, and I know they have over 700 students. And the reason that we said that we can eliminate one of our art rooms is because they have over 700 students and they just use a 6-day rotating UA schedule. And they found that they didn't need the extra art because they actually put it in their new building and they changed that into an intervention room. So that's why we're pretty confident, or we are confident, that we don't need that extra art room.
If you want more of the Whittier as one, another elementary school to construction application students as one. With the same as Susan said, this is their rotation.
Good. Thank you, Susan.
So these 4 items, these are things that we would need to approve at this point.
We would like approval because
We're at the end of the line here.
we have to move pretty quickly.
All right. So, if we can go back to the, let's go to.
Just one sheet back will give you the listing. The first was the destratification fans at the gym. Oops, just one sheet in front of this.
The only comment that I would make about those destratification things that I think every school that I've ever done, they were proposed at one point and ultimately got removed because
That was a good one.
they're massive fans, stuff gets, dust collects, they don't get used, balls go up into them and.
All right, so what we got is the remove destratification fans, the storefront, window system, eliminate exterior sunshades, and the building footprint reductions. So I would be looking for a motion to approve
Make
those
the motion.
by Stacy Gould,
I'll second.
second by Greg. Any discussion regarding the 4 items?
Just one question, why were the fans put in the first? We work on plenty of educational buildings like Mike. This is something where the D-Strat fan in a large volume space helps circulation of the air. So you get the hot air rises, cold air wants to drop. It's a good way to try to force the hot air out to the outer walls, drop it down the walls, and then recirculate it up, and it creates a kind of a convection. So I guess it's not convection in that it's being moved. So at any rate, it moves the air, it mixes the air, and therefore you're able to take advantage of some of that heated air up at the top. It's not uncommon not to have them. They do come with a series of issues that make them sometimes cumbersome, difficult, and
Cleaning, maintenance, all that stuff.
and sometimes not operated as you'd like to see them when they are installed.
Flying off, decapitation.
So that's why they were considered, it's,
Huh?
you know, when we start a project, you know, we open it up to all our consultants. It's good engineering practice to consider them. Our consultants put it on the table as for consideration. Greg just pointed to another project with the same consultants where we had the same conversation and they got taken out of that project as well.
I think they're most effective when the room's not in use that often. You put kids in there, everyone's running around. They're in
Yeah.
rooms. But when you get areas that it's sitting and then everybody wants to go in and it needs to be comfortable. That's where those will work, I think.
It's like assembly.
Yeah, but then it needs to be set up so someone remembers to turn them on.
I think we got one more question down there.
So in place of the fans, if you set up some sort of a venting system just to remove that excess heat at the top?
No, you paid for it. We want to keep the heat as much as we can, as much as the code will allow us to keep it. We do have research requirements in all the educational spaces.
There's a lot of air moves you can do.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that that layer of heated air though, that's fine that it's there. However, during the winter would lead to snow melt and, you know, other problems on the roof.
Hopefully not.
All right, Joe DeLucia, you have a question? Joe?
Actually, I have I don't know, I guess a statement on the 2 items. I get, the gist of removing the fans in the gymnasiums. I agree with Mike that they do become a bit of a hassle, right? Because once they're in, they're in a building, and if they are used, then within 3 to 5 years they're covered in dust, and there never seems to be enough time, right, for custodial staff to bring in a person lift to go all the way up there and clean. I've seen them in gymnasiums where they put kind of like a cage around them to protect them from damage from volleyballs and the like. And then the cage is caked with dust and the fan is caked with dust. And then it becomes a whole iteration where you got to disassemble the whole cage and clean it, and clean the fan, and then put the cage back up. And it becomes one of those building operational issues that there never seems to be enough time for. And then when you look up there and you see the thing caked with dirt and dust, you say, wow, the building's filthy, when it's really not. It's just, there's just not enough time to properly maintain those. So I guess I wouldn't chafe so much at removing these fans, even though I do believe that they from an operational standpoint, they do function and provide a benefit of moving the air around. So, it's one of those things. What does it cost to maintain them over the life of the building? You start balancing that. So I can agree with removing those as part of the plan. However, eliminating the exterior sunshades is a little bit problematic for me because so my first question on this is it says minus 100K. Is that a minus $100,000 per building?
No, this is total. They're about
Total
40
of on the two
40
buildings.
Yeah. 46, 44 on the two buildings, something along those lines. These
Right,
are,
so, yeah. I'm
and like
sorry.
I said, those are construction costs, Joe, not total project costs.
Well, what's the difference?
But well, construction costs, meaning it's the hard cost, it's what you pay on bid day for it. Total project cost is the various, the bid bond on top of it, or the various other elements that are soft costs that get added to the dollar amount, which results in approximately about 20% to 25% increase, order of magnitude. So that's a way to think of it.
So around 50-some thousand dollars per building with all
Correct.
that figured in, right?
Yep.
So there is an aesthetic component, but it's not my primary objection to this. But let's say it does exist, right? There's an aesthetic component. However, there's also in my mind, to my way of thinking, there is also a functionality piece, controlling the amount of direct sunlight coming through the glazing into the spaces, using an exterior sunshade. I mean, that's a well-proven and strongly vetted process, and I just think that that it saves in other ways. It saves in energy cost. I know that we're going to have an E rating and an updated R value on the glass itself, but I just think that these exterior sunshades provide a benefit that far outweighs the $50-some thousand it's going to cost per building when you figure what the impact will be on energy costs and other tangible items over the life of a building. I mean, right now we're taking, we're squeezing 50 years out of a building. So even if these buildings are not renovated or rebuilt again for another 40 years, you think about what would be saved for a $50,000 investment at this point. So I have a bit of a challenge with the eliminating the exterior sunshades, especially, I mean, at $100,000 per building, I would say, all right, well, yeah, I could kind of see that, but at, 50 to 50-some thousand dollars per building, I think that that's a very, very small expense for a long-term payoff that would be far and away much more money than that. And then, of course, the aesthetic piece is the intangible part, but still part of it. So I would like to say, so to make this formal, I guess what I'm saying is that I'd like to amend the motion that we have on the floor, because we're in discussion right now, are we not, Mark?
Yes.
So I'd like to amend the motion to accept A, B, and D, but to remove item C from this list, which is eliminating the exterior sunshades.
Is there a second?
I wanted to ask
No.
a question. Yeah.
No, well, he's made a motion to amend yeah, so that's on the table right now.
I'll second.
You'll second for discussion purposes. All right, Peter. All right, now discussion.
What fabric are those made of? What do they make?
Aluminum. So it's the same material as the window system.
And like, approximately how much of an annual are?
They are approximately 18 inches to 2 feet deep, and they're made up of kind of elements. It's not like a solid thin stick. It's like tubular elements, but they have an angle to them that kind of takes that sun off the window, but it allows
Like a
snow, for instance, to
Like a
fall.
mini aluminum curtain.
So maintenance,
Correct.
so the maintenance of them.
It's fine. There's no real maintenance associated with them that we've seen on other projects, because there's no moving parts associated.
Jim, I think you should respond to Joe, at least for me anyway.
Sure.
He raised an issue relative to the efficiency and what you're
Right.
going to gain out of it. So.
So I think Joe's points, there's potential for additional savings and there's some aesthetic value associated. Those are two statements that I couldn't contest. What I can say is that the state of Connecticut identifies the high performance building standard as its kind of threshold for supporting public projects in the state. And our reasoning when we asked to hold on this one so that we could further test it was that we could do the engineering calculation necessary to be able to meet that standard
For the new glaze.
with the glazing system that had been proposed. We've been able to confirm that in that time frame. With that knowledge and the understanding that this was an item back in March identified by the committee for consideration to be removed as a potential value engineering, we now come to the table saying, understanding that is the direction of the committee, it's on the table. To the aesthetic issue, the building that I think would get most benefit out of it would be the Greenville project because of the 3 stories. But we do have eyebrows on that building, and I can point them out in a rendering that comes later. You've seen it already, but there is a horizontal band in it that helps do some of that work. And it's done differently. It's not at the window. It's kind of through the body of the building.
Just one quick comment regarding this that may help the committee. Jim, given that, you know, if the storefront in lieu of window systems is accepted, does this lend itself to be a decent add alternate or deduct alternate, depending on how we proceeded with it? I know that occasionally, sometimes when you're using a manufactured window system from someone like EFCO and then adding sunshades to that becomes problematic because you're trying to find a mounting point to and engineering calculations are required to get them to work. And I wouldn't recommend even trying to do that if it was a fixed window system that we were using, but potentially now that it's going to a storefront system, the engineering calculations would be a lot different than trying to get a manufactured window system to approve of the engineering calculations needed to attach one of these things to their window systems. And I'm only going off previous experience that, you know, it became problematic trying to.
Well, in my understanding,
It would have to be designed.
the products specified are both base standards, EFCO, who knows what we'll get, but that's our base bid, both the storefront and the window system. So that same supplier would be providing similar calculations for both. So I'm not really sure, to be truthful, but I do know the calculation has to be done.
Yeah, it probably had to be done at this stage for future, you'd have to. Put
If it's an adult, it would be included in some way. We have to show where the mounting points are and what the expectation is, and they would then up that pricing accordingly.
So any other comments on the amendment?
2 more down.
Stacy?
Yeah, just, one quick on the window shades. The difference between the window shades and the glazing. You said is there no difference, or is it a percentage difference operationally? Is it like 60% efficiency or a reduction in cost to cool that building, or?
Well, Mark, to answer the question, the high performance building standard establishes the threshold for HVAC performance. and I'm not an engineer, so I'm probably getting the numbers wrong, but it's something like 25% beyond the ASHRAE standard that was set at the outset of this code point. So it's a significant target to get to.
Right.
Cumulatively, with all the systems applied in the building, we've gotten to that target and our engineers feel confident in that. Will this provide some percent uptick? Probably, yes. It creates shading on the window that would take it even further. But I can say the same thing about let my engineers put a different type of cooling system or heating system. There's always opportunity to do that. It costs money. And that's what we're talking about here.
So I'm just wondering, has the calculation been so fine tuned to the point where you can say you can get an 8% uptick with the glazing system, or a 10% uptick, meaning there's only with the exterior shades, so there's only really a 2% difference in an uptick between the two systems.
It's not, that's not the calculation you do. The whole wall is a system.
All right.
So if you bring the glazing up to the point where you met the performance standard for that wall as a system, anything you do above that is incremental. So if you, in this case, we're saying take glazing up, get rid of the exterior pieces on the building, because they have other load, they impose other costs. To put the sunshades on, you need a thicker window frame because they have wind loads on. So you're picking up costs for the window frame is heavier, framing around is heavier, and then you're buying the window shade. Or the sunshade. If you go up with the glazing to reduce the amount of heat gain, you get into that same level and probably less expensive. The glass will be more on the south side of the building, but it's a small increase over the glass on the north side. And the building works to a certain energy efficiency. If you took it where we are now and put the sunshades on it, you might get an 0.5% efficiency. And then you would have to run that against your savings for running heat and cooling in the building for the incremental cost of packing.
Right, I'm just concerned, if, whether the cost is justified versus operational costs. Does it cost, say, so many dollars to make a 1 degree difference in the room temperature? So if you can get the room down another degree.
Getting the room down another degree, you're spending less, you're burning less fuel to keep the room at the same time. That's how you figure energy efficiency. It's not a reduction in temperature, it's a reduction in energy to achieve.
I could also offer a clarification point to Greg's statement. That is, it's not that we had the sunshades and decided, no, we're going to put the money in the window. We had the upgraded south-facing window, and that's been priced, and we had this. We weren't sure that this alone was going to do the work. Our engineers now have had the time to confirm it does the work. We would rather have it in the glass than in the shade, because the glass also gives you other characteristics about how that affects the interior environment for the students and learning. We want it in the glass first. We just thought we also had to augment it, and we do not in this case. That's where we are. And our engineers
With an
say,
exterior shade, I mean, it's subject to high wind damage, quite possibly too.
possibly.
Stacy?
Right, so it's the exterior sunshade, it's fixed, it's on the building. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
If you drop
What's the
down.
lifetime warranty? What's the warranty on the shade?
Gosh, I think
Couple of
it's,
years?
I think, no, I think it's like your Windows system. If you're getting it from a quality manufacturer like EFCO, and they're offering you their warranty for their system, it's gonna match that. It's not, we've installed them on projects where they were necessary. They're hard wearing, they're tested, they're engineered. It's not that kind of concern.
It ends up being the same finished material more than likely as the window itself,
It
so it's gonna age exactly as the window ages.
Okay. And well, I'm just thinking, they're only on the south facing windows.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just thinking about down the road, for whatever reason, this one broke,
Yep.
okay, and now we've got to put another one in. Is it gonna be like in kind, and now are we gonna end up with mismatched shades 20 years from now? I mean, and we are so far down in the weeds, this is kind of.
Yeah, where, yeah. I'm not fixing it.
Yeah,
There's no moving.
and chances are if a tree hits it, you're gonna have more damage than just the whole window.
But so just, this is for Greenville standing.
Yes, sir.
So if we assume that we're gonna do this for Uncas and Moriarty. I say assume.
I would say you have to test it. I would say you have to test it.
The text, the actual.
Yeah.
Calculations. But if we were to.
I would say it's a fair guess that that's where you may head in the future.
We get close to 250,000.
I mean, but again, the buildings may not be aesthetically.
I'm just.
Yeah.
Trying to round numbers.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. On the amendment, Joe DeLucia,
Yes,
Stacy,
No.
no.
Can I ask, I'm so sorry, I know this is your business, but I'm
Darn
curious.
right.
What is being?
We're just discussing
No,
taking
you're
the
voting
C out of it.
On the window.
So you are removing.
Yeah, we're talking about
Thank
that.
you. I just.
No for Stacy, Greg.
What am I voting on?
We're voting on removing C. The shades.
Do you want the window changed, yes or no?
The amendment will add the shades back in. The amendment will add the shades back in. So if the amendment passes, the shades go back in.
The amendment is to remove the shades.
No, no. No, the motion is to remove the shades.
Okay.
Yes means add back, no means keep them out.
Yes, yes means add back.
Yes.
No.
No. Cindy? No.
No.
Bill?
No.
Peter?
No.
No. No. Motion fails.
Just vote.
I suppose, I said no. I said no. Motion fails. All right, on the original motion, any other discussion? Hearing none. Joe DeLucia,
yes,
Stacy,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Greg, me, yes. All right.
Thank you all for the time on that one.
Thank you for the explanation.
Make it back to him.
Yeah. I'll try to be quick. So relative to the next item, as we said, we're moving into CDs. We're having regular discussions, checking the space. We will have discussions relative to furniture. It also leads to interior finish, color, etc. And because these are publicly bid projects, we identify a direction, but you never know what tile you're getting, what ceiling tile you're getting, what, all these things affect color. So we identify a manufacturer, we identify a color range, we then get the specifics of what's in hand on bid day. And with that, we'll then come back with a package that then pieces it together. Because sometimes, Armstrong has a great blue and a good combination with another color we may want to use. We get a substitute. Now we have another tile manufacturer. Their blue just doesn't work. This is out of this pay scale of our interior design staff. These people are top notch. They'll figure it out, but it's that kind of adjustment that has to be made further in the process. What we can share with you now is basically a sense of color direction for both buildings. And so with that kind of long preamble.
Oh, here we go.
So
Fluorescent green. No.
you guys have seen this previously. This is kind of an entry. What I want to do is walk in the doors now. So if we go to the next slide, this is the image of that main lobby space that you've seen in 2D in the design development drawings, etc. So it gives you a sense of walk-off mat, flooring material. These are phenolic panels, which they look like wood, but it's super hard wearing material, doesn't dent, doesn't chip, doesn't get gouged, etc. We use them at corner situations for that kind of protection. The wave element, it's kind of the shark takeoff. So we're kind of that suggestion of water. These are actually an acoustic treatment. They're a panel system that helps us absorb the sounds of this space, because as you can see, it's a pretty hard space, but that's the sense of walking into the space. Now we're going to walk down here, and if you hit the next slide, we're looking back towards that entry point where we just walked in. This is administration off to this side. This is a small lobby space in that main entry at Stanton School. The next slide will take us to a lobby space, but this lobby space is over at the gymnasium. So off of the bus loop, there's an entry point there. As you all recall, this can be segregated off from the educational wing and gives us good separation. So this is a great after hours, weekends, community use type space. A lot of glazing on the wall gives you a good kind of light, airy feel. Again, a more simplified, but the same idea, baffles to help control sound in this zone, hard wearing flooring materials. We do have some bench elements occasionally, again, introducing a little bit of a waveform, hard surface seating area there to kind of ensure its longevity and ability to stand up. And directly in there is the cafeteria space. And if you hit the next slide, I'm going to the gym. How about that?
It's a nice picture.
Happy to be in the gym. Surprised, but here we go. So the gym, it's a lot of what we just talked about. Greg loves it.
All right, who built this?
We have the bleacher seating that we talked about. An add alternate that we have in the set, as you know, is the ability to expand that out so it doubles the capacity. It'll be able to seat at this dimension for within the game lines. It'll extend beyond that for larger gatherings. Padding at the wall surfaces. Demising partition that allows this to drop down and create 2 teaching spaces. And we show all 6 of the backstops deployed, but this is this and this are the competitions, and the others would be cranked up if in fact it's used.
And the fans are out too.
We have removed the fans. This message just hasn't gone to our consultants. If you go to the next slide, it's another view. It's looking back in the other direction, looks very much the same, but gives you a little closer look at this area. Go to the next slide. Now I'm in the cafeteria. So
We're hungry after work.
we are at the entry point looking out into the space. So we do have the servery area. Dish drop is over to the side. Some nice lighting, and again, trying to deploy simple systems to be able to help with the dampening of sound in the space, but also introduce some color. We go to the next slide. We're going to stand at the other end and look back. And this is that door that I was pointing to when I thought I was in the lobby coming in. So now I'm looking back at that door, but you can see this whole wall is a glazed wall, and beyond that, we have a good amount of color on the wall on the outside. So it's playful, it's cheerful, it's bright. We think it's going to provide a great opportunity for gatherings, etc. Yes.
I'm just curious on the tables. I'm sure that I know this is down the road, but Is this something that you have in mind, the particular style of table?
You know, we're working furniture.
Yeah,
What we do at this
I'm
point is
curious.
placeholders, and then we'll put the whole furniture package together
That's
and
it.
then get input.
I was
from
just wondering how
administration.
easy to do.
So
I usually hear a lot of complaints from maintenance. Tables.
we have chatted with maintenance at this point. As Greg said, that is going to get into another
Yes,
iterative
yes.
step of conversation. But these are a folding style table that they collapse together. The seats turn sideways. It stands up on wheels and they're pretty easily moved.
Yeah, we use those in prison.
That's part of the problem that I think Greg is getting to. We may want to use a different approach, and that's a conversation down the road. But this tells you the number of seats that we're trying to get into the space, which is enough to serve about 160 children at one time. It gets us a 4-wave cafeteria. So next slide, we'll head over to the Greenville School.
In ghosts.
And ghosts, yes, when we're gonna walk in that door and hopefully it won't surprise me, there we are. So at Greenville, you recall, we just came in the main visitors entry door. We look straight across, that's the bus entrance door. To the right of me in this glazing is the administration. So you've gone through that kind of entry sequence. In Greenville, we're using a lot of nature forms. This is something that's built into a hillside, has a great tree canopy. So we took our inspiration from that, but within the linoleum, you see some tree leaf forms cut into place and that color palette. If you go to the next slide, we're standing under this tree element. That's the stair that moves its way up. You can see the guardrail system and it's reflective of kind of branches and trees. But it gives you a sense of the tone of color and the brightness of the space. We move to the next slide. We're going to step up. This is a small breakout area. We often do these. It's very light green in this rendering, but it's kind of an art form. We often use a material there called Flotex. It's a low profile, non-woven. It looks like carpeting, but it's a material that you can take the floors, if you're using a floor scrubber on the linoleum, and slide it directly over it. It operates with the same cleaning, and it's that durable. It was designed for healthcare many years ago, and they've just kind of caught up with, if they make it pretty, people will use it elsewhere. It's a great project or product. Thank you. In the next slide, I didn't say we were going. We're over into the cafeteria, and this cafeteria has a lot of the same feel of what we shared with you at Stanton. Uses kind of the tree form tones. You see the view out. There is a bus because that is where the bus loop drop is. Down this side, this is where the entry into the bus loop is. This is the serving area, so children can queue up along that area, get their food, eat, drop for washing and recycling. Next slide, we'll go to the other end and look back. Similarly, we try to introduce a good amount of glazing at the corners. We use art, which is on a phenolic panel to get good color into the space, but it gives you a sense of the environment. You go to the next slide. This is the library space. So we just entered in immediately to the right, which you'll see in the plan is kind of the main reception of book drop, etc. Directly ahead is the makerspace in the green zone. And to the right is stacks and some soft seating out towards the window wall. If you go to the next slide, we'll step into the space and we're looking into the makerspace that's been identified for this area, teaching wall, cabinetry, storage. We do have some sinks in this, which this is something that we've worked with administration to understand. The sinks are there to support the STEM learning that happens in this space. So that's supportive of that. We do have, this is the area where we have the ceiling mounted reels, and they have not shown up in this as of yet. And that's how we're getting the power down to the student tables, which they might be grouped together for those type of activities that would need electrical support. Next slide, I'll show you the breakout. This is in a corner of the library, just across from the main reception that we chatted about. There's a quarter system just on the other side. We open it up, so it's that idea of having the space kind of introduced to students and introduced to the public as they use the circulation in the building. But gives nice, comfortable areas for this, like a storytelling area for young children. We're back at a gym. This is the view as you walk in, main entry to the gym. The system that we're using high in both schools is a CalWall system. This has like a rice paper film in it, but it's made of plastics. It's not actually rice paper, but it gives diffuse light. It gives beautiful natural light to the space without hot spots on the floor or getting in the eyes of competitors if it's being used in competition.
It's in Stanton. We've been in the Stanton gymnasium.
Okay.
It's on the west. Yeah.
We have similar applications in pre-K to 8 schools where the lighting system just doesn't get used during the day because it's that effective in terms of making a natural light environment. And the next slide will take you to the other end where coach is giving them skills in terms of free throws. But it gives you a sense of these are say again? They're acoustic, but what are they made of, Greg? The wood material.
Heck, I didn't know those was.
You didn't study.
I didn't study.
Oh, gosh. Okay, anyway. Heavy duty, yeah, they are heavy duty hardware and made of basically a wood fiber material. We put, colors on it to create pattern. Mr. Hall's familiar with these
Gym teacher won't be wearing cleats either.
Yeah, right. We do have some fabric wrap panels associated. That's a great pickup. I love that. And I think that's the last of our package that we had to share. So quick tour of 2 buildings and just curious, any thoughts, feedback?
Can't wait to see them.
Me too.
Me three.
They gave me -5.
We should build up like the library information.
All right,
Jim? I know they're expensive.
At Greenville.
I got one or two.
Greenville is on the 3rd floor and it's out over the north side. It's on its own. At Stanton, the library.
By the time we get to the Downs presentation, all of their thunder.
Exactly.
All of it.
I can reverse the order.
Yeah.
They have wall, auditorium, libraries.
Okay. One of the things that we kind of want to talk about today is the value management. As you know, our first process, we went from SD to DD. We probably did one of the larger value management processes that we've had to do in a long time. From those stages, considering the budget we were trying to meet. Most of these things we've already discussed. We said no, we really do not recommend any of these. Because it does, it's, stuff in the bleachers, it's things, it's pennies to get down to, kind of what Joe was talking about earlier. We don't want to probably cut things just to cut them when you still really truly need the items. So with what Jim was talking to you earlier about, those are things they've been working on internally, finding some extra space to cut out of the building. I'm gonna put up here again, you take all my thunder, it makes it no fun.
But no, we do appreciate it. That is kind of the teamwork we're trying to do on this. Again, these were just extra things. You see the sunshades right here on this one, $46,000. Again, these were things that we were looking at, they had to get confirmation on. Again, the other things are really not recommended, but I wanted to just show them if we still had some serious dollar concerns, which I know we do. That's a given, but there are still some other options we could consider.
So, Chip, just, some of these I think were already contemplated, like the
Yes.
synthetic rubber we had already voted on, I believe. Yeah, and I understand keeping the running list.
Yeah, it was just,
Just
these
in
were
case.
basically the things that were still left on those lists, just to kind of throw them out again. So I mean, it's really, again, I don't think anybody in here really would like to have those. We
Yeah.
really don't, propose those, but just wanted to show you again, there's still some options to reduce money. And same thing goes with the Greenville site. The only big item on this one that did come up is this line item here, but we had to increase the size of the Greenville project, and that's reflected there, but that I don't think that's anything we can get rid of either. And the reductions in square footage that DRA is working on right now will help that.
We should accept 12 for sure. TBD is like whatever number we choose.
That one's still working. I think there still could be some significant cost savings there once the engineers complete all their studies with the.
Gonna ask you about that.
Yeah. I haven't had any feedback yet on that. I don't know, Jim, if y'all had anything from the engineers on the retaining walls, any kind of feedback yet on that?
But we don't have a final report, full final. We did release significant amount of information that you have and we shared, but that is still making its way through finalization.
Yeah, I think we're still hopeful. When we originally proposed this, it was assuming about 40% we could have open cut. What we did recognize from the geotech report that a lot of that rock is a lot more solid than we kind of were anticipating. So hopefully we can have more open cut that there reduces all the concrete and a reversa block that would have to put up in there and make that increase that savings from what we originally thought.
Good news, Lawrence.
Still got fingers crossed.
Yeah,
that
okay.
one.
Yeah.
But that's really, where we're at right now. Definitely want to spend some time talking with Jim in the coming weeks to understand some more of these reductions so we can kind of start in our mind, start planning and the reductions that we may see. Okay.
Sorry, I'm not clear. So these are things that we're still going to talk about getting rid of? Or we already have?
Mostly we have already spoken about through the earlier value management process. I just really wanted to show some of the items. So if we still had some serious concern on budget, I'm not trying to say there is none, but I know we still need to try to reduce. But just to bring them back up, just kind of food for thought, if somebody may have changed their mind or there may have been a change in the overall concept, we could probably look at some of these. But again, these really aren't recommended. It was just to bring them back up.
Christine, just as a point of clarity for this too, over the past 3 months, the budget iterations changed so much that, in speaking with both DRA and Downs, and conversations that I've had with myself, nothing was off the table as of 2 months ago to try and get everything back in line to not need those 2 ordinances that were proposed. So, everyone has been looking at basically everything that we could to try and get us back to where we needed to be. So,
and just as kind of just, it may not be a comfort just because of where the prices are, but what we are seeing in some other projects that we're doing right now, the dollars per square foot on the actual building is running in line with all the other ones, except for the Greenville site. But if you take the site conditions out of that pulls it back into the same bucket with all the other projects that we're currently either have just recently bid or that are under construction.
Very well too, it's like freight gloves, I think your freight gloves have all been going up, it seems, right? So. I mean,
You know, I wish I still had my crystal ball. It got shattered along with, the pandemic.
Well, I think one thing that I think we've learned, obviously, when you're forecasting out some of these projects and numbers, enrollment, all these other things that we've been talking about, you would need to be better than Nostradamus in order to, to be pretty accurate. So, you kind of plan, you do the best.
That's why you have to have a healthy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you plan, you do the best you can, and, and you kind of deal with what you get. Which is what we're doing.
Yeah, things have been a little bit.
Just cross your fingers.
Although things lately seem to be stabilized.
They really have. We've seen a few things go up and we've seen some things go down. So at the end of the day, it seems like it's staying pretty stable. We're not seeing the huge inflation year to year like we were. It does seem to be slowing down a little bit. So, really all we can do is, keep our fingers crossed so we don't have any craziness happen in the world.
Amen.
Any other questions?
Just 1 minute. I
Yeah.
remember the discussion about the generators and the batteries, the inverters. Is there potential to put in large batteries that support the emergency lighting? Like, I mean, for example, what they use in cars today or something, the battery packs, is that? Or is those
The emergency lighting batteries are, I thought.
At each light.
So I know that, no, but right now but right now we have a generator.
Right.
That supplies all that power to all those, so we don't use the batteries.
There's, I guess, two different types of emergency lighting. You have your exit lights, which direct you out of the building in case there's a power failure, and those are on batteries. Those are self-contained in there. This keeps your lighting throughout the classroom, and I think there was some concern too about it, as this being kind of a place of refuge, if, there was.
It's not a place for disaster.
I thought at one time I heard that.
You heard it in the
Three things, generator. Your lighting, so that you get in and out of the building when power's out. You're preserving the building itself by running heating systems, and you're preserving any food that's in refrigerators, fridges. Okay, and so those three things on that generator have invariably worth having the generator or the batteries. The batteries have a very short shelf life. And if you're relying on them, you're changing them out on a daily basis.
Yes.
Really, would certainly.
I was really asking the question, like, the Tesla batteries that you're putting in facilities, was that?
Those are
That's a
inverters.
different animal. That's
you would have to run those with inverters.
on a fairly regular basis. Charger, they run them down at night, and they're a lithium ion, which I don't think anyone wants in schools yet.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, the thing is, though, they last a long time, but you need a lot of space. They typically they're built into a wall, a long wall, but the wall is being bigger and bigger.
On the gym. Failure, it's a major.
Yeah, it's an issue. Yeah, I would say that more often we're seeing the generators stay in just for the simplification of maintaining.
All right, any other questions for, no, good. But they're good. All right, yes, no.
No, we lost it.
Nah, I just.
Joe's still there.
I'm here.
Yeah, I know. No, I
Seemed for a second we lost the whole feed.
All right, let's see, where we at? Consent agenda, all the invoices. So Greenville number 17, 12, 879.40. Stanton number 17, 10, 55546. We're already number 4, 19, 523 and 20 cents. Teachers 9,500. DRA Greenville 10, 241, 305, 56 cents. Stanton number 10, 187, 697, 86 cents. And Downs, Greenville number 5, 16,000. Stanton number 5, 16,000.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second by Greg. There's no discussion on that. Joe.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yeah.
Greg.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Great, yeah, thank you. Bill.
Yes.
Peter. Yes. Greg. Mark, yes. 10-0. All right. Is there anything else that we need to bring up tonight? Because if we're not, we're going home.
Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Cindy. Joe?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Cindy? Bill?
Christine.
Yes, Christine, I'm doing well today.
Yes.
Peter? Greg? Me, yes, 10-0.
Use it for reference.
Good night, it is 8:23 PM. Thank you, everybody.